but he's going to be rusty. Northwestern's going to be without linebacker Nate Hall and defensive tackle Jordan Thompson due to some surgeries, so there's some bad luck for them as well. If it wasn't for these injuries, I would have jumped on Northwestern at +7, looking at how good the Big Ten has already started this bowl season. But I'm going to wait and see what happens to this line. Seeing that Northwestern does keep games close, I'm really inclined to take them. But I think this line is going to climb up a little bit. Even maybe I'll get a 7 and a hook. We're at -110. So that's kind of where I'm going to be interested in buying this game. The lean is Northwestern Wildcats +7. The Tax Slayer Bowl in Jacksonville, Florida. You have Texas A&M versus NC State. NC State's getting 7 points. Over under is 58.5. These teams seem pretty similar here to me. Both teams won their last 3 games. Both teams like to throw the ball. Both teams are around 6.2 yards per play. NC State gives up 5.7 yards per play. Texas A&M gives up 5.9. But the Aggies run the ball better at 4.9 yards per rush to NC State Wolfpack 3.9. So Texas A&M runs better. Jimbo Fisher is 5-3 against the spread in bowl games now Texas A&M, while Dave Doran is 4-1. There's no real advantage there. Texas A&M has had a way harder schedule though than NC State. Their schedule ranks 4th on Sagarin to NC State's 69. My algorithm has this game closer to a pick'em even after adjusting for strength of schedule. What Texas A&M screwed up on is their efficiencies. They have bad yards per point on offense and defense, and it's because they're not hitting their field goals as well. They don't have as good of a third down efficiency. NC State's better on third down efficiency at 50% conversion rate, while the Aggies are at 40%. NC State's at 87% on the field goal percentage. A&M's only at 70%. So their drives tend to fizzle out. And that's why I only have Texas A&M per the algorithm adjusted for strength of schedule winning by 1 point here. Because of all that, I am going to take a small play on NC State +7. And it's small because their schedule was so much different. And the ACC is also getting their butts kicked in the bowl games. The Sun Bowl in El Paso, Texas. Pittsburgh versus Stanford. Stanford is laying 5.5 points. Over under is 52. Let's just start out by saying that Stanford's David Shaw is 5-2 against the spread in bowl games, while Pittsburgh's Pat Narduzzi is 0-2. Not good. Bryce Love is sitting out this bowl game, but I don't think it affected the spread much, seeing that he was kind of banged up all year and not in a lot of games. The huge narrative of the Pac-12 has been to fade them because of how bad they've been in bowl games and very disrespected not only in the media, but also in the betting market. This line opened up around a 7 and sharp money came in on Pitt. Now it's at 5.5. Now, in my opinion, I do not think that the ACC was all that either. I don't. And it's starting to prove that, as I've already mentioned. So I don't really trust all this Pitt money. What I can trust is that Pittsburgh is a great running team at 5.6 yards per carry and runs 65% of the time. They're going to pound the ball. I also like how Pitt ran through some very good teams in the middle of the season. Both these teams have weak defenses, giving up about 5.8 yards per play. If Stanford can't stop the run, they could lose this game outright. That's very true. Both teams play top 10 slowest in the nation, so even with these bad defenses, I can't take the over. Like 64, 65 plays per game on average, slow. The average is around, 72 or something. I don't love this game, but I lean Pittsburgh plus the points here. Possibly might have to take the under, but It's just these defenses are so bad. I'm not excited to take under 52. So I'm leaning Pitt plus 5.5 points. If you have any questions about some of these handicaps, please tweet us at the Odds Breakers. And now it's time for
the Sharp Side of the Force.
The Sharp Side of the Force is being brought to you by uwager.eu. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com/uwager for a 50% one-time bonus. All right, let's see if anything has changed since our sharp action report from last week. We have Purdue still +5 down to +3 versus Auburn, was a sharp side. Dual action on Syracuse from +7, now all the way down to -2. I think it was +1 last week. Lots of action coming in on Syracuse here. That's a 9-point line move. Nevada +2 down to -1 versus Arkansas State. Iowa State +6.5 down to +2.5 versus Washington State. Man, this line might warrant a buyback at some point for us because we took this one early around the +7, +6 range. There's dual action on Alabama versus Oklahoma. And the sharp and public, not a ton yet. There's dual action on Notre Dame versus Clemson. So both sharp and public like Notre Dame here. Pittsburgh +6.5 down to +5.5 versus Stanford. Stanford's a sharp side. Northwestern looks like it got hit at +7.5. So that game did see that. I didn't see it myself at -110 yet versus Utah. And now, like I said, I might nail that one myself if this spread evens out at 7.5. I mean, you'd have to probably get a lot more square or whatever tickets to keep that sucker up at 7 in the hook. There's dual action on Penn State -4 to -6.5 versus Kentucky. And there's dual action on Ohio State -5 to -6.5 versus Washington. And we'll be next week podcasting about the January 1st games as well as the national title game. Sharp totals. West Virginia versus Syracuse under 74 down to 66. I may be taking an over here if it keeps getting down. It's starting to get to the point where even a backup quarterback should be able to, put up enough points for this over. Dual action on the Arkansas versus Nevada under 58.5 down to 55.5. Iowa State versus Washington State over was hit 54.5 up to 56.5. Dual action on the Notre Dame versus Clemson over 56 to 56.5. And Cincinnati versus Virginia Tech under hit hard 53.5. It's still around there, and there's a 68% difference between the ticket counts of the and the money. So pretty huge. Sharp NFL. Dallas versus New York Giants. Giants got hit at -3 to -6, a 41% difference. Carolina +9 to +7 versus the New Orleans Saints. Oh, money on Carolina. Is Breeze still trying to win that MVP? That's a good question. Jacksonville +9 to +6.5 versus Houston. Some sharp. And Arizona +13.5 to +13 versus Seattle. A 39% difference between tickets and money. You have NFL totals. Dallas versus New York Giants under 43.5 to 41.5. Carolina versus New Orleans under 44.5 down to 43.5. New York Jets versus New England under 48 down to 44.5. New England will probably pound the ball more, keep guys healthy. Atlanta versus Tampa over 49 up to 51.5 Miami versus Buffalo over 38 to 39.5. Cincinnati versus Pittsburgh under 48 down to 45.5. LA Chargers versus Denver under 41.5. Arizona versus Seattle over 38.5. So there is your sharp college and sharp NFL report. Now let's get into a little bit of NFL, and we're going to bring on our buddy, Cub Fan Danny. All right, I'd like to welcome back Cub Fan Danny to the podcast, and you know it's a big week. The NFL is finishing off kind of a turbulent week with the NFL. Lots of crazy motivational questions, and the UFC, baby. UFC 232 is here, Danny. How you doing, bud?
Hey, man. Great. Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.
Hey, man. We appreciate you. And hopefully you had a very Merry Christmas, my friend.
It was nice. Always spending it with the family is always a good thing, right? How about yourself?
Yep. Spent it with the family mostly. I watched a lot of bowl games as usual. Mm-hmm. And, that's what made it nice. I saw some friends too as well. So it wasn't completely locked up in the dungeon, but it worked out pretty well, my man. So really happy with that, and just getting back into the swing of things. And we have college basketball coming up, so you know how much I love that stuff. And
yes, you're the master at it.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I'd call myself that, but I appreciate the compliment there. But let's move on into the NFL then, bud.
Yeah.
Miami, and I'll go first if you don't mind.
No, do it.
And everybody, this is a crazy week. A lot of people don't even podcast or do a lot of picks this week because there's a lot of volatility here. Some teams are not trying when you think they should be. Some teams, are deciding they just don't want to even get injured. There's some teams, even though they're out of it completely, they don't even try to win and get that last game. And sometimes they really do. Maybe they're trying to save their coach. There's all kinds of little angles here, which makes it really interesting. I have more plays than I thought I'd come out with. So I'm going to go right into it. Miami versus Buffalo. Buffalo's laying about 3.5, 4 points here. We know that Miami is actually trying to be 8-8 here for Adam Gase, and they're 7-8. And you don't know that, but that's what I'm going with. Adam Gase is well liked there. They want to make sure he's the man next year, and this is why you still see Ryan Tannehill starting. There's some rumors that are probably true that the Dolphins may move on from Ryan, so they don't have to pay him $19 million next year. Now, I know that Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills want to finish their season strong. That's what they're saying. But do you think that the Bills should be laying over 3 points at home to anybody? Not name the Cardinals at least this year? I don't think so. Is Adam Gase just going to sit there and not be motivated to win this game? I remember Adam Gase with the Bears. He's very competitive. I highly doubt it. Now, I know that Miami is pretty banged up in the secondary. They're going to be without Xavier Howard and TJ McDonald. But does that matter so much when they're playing a rookie quarterback like Josh Allen, who mainly runs the ball, kind of scared of gun shy to throw it, and he just has been taken off running. He has like 300 yards in 3 games this year. Football Outsiders has Buffalo the 31st team. So out of 32 teams, obviously, and Miami's at 25. Most power ratings have Miami 1.5 better on a neutral field, so this line should be Buffalo only minus 1.5. I'm going to take the fish here. I'm going to take them at the 3 in the hook. I think there's a chance that they win out this game, buddy.
I was one game. You surprised me with that one. I wouldn't touch that one if you gave me money to put it on, right? I know you like Gase, and he's going to be ready to coach, right? And he wants to win, but do the players, right? I would have a feeling that Buffalo would have more to prove than Miami, right? Especially with the young quarterback. That's me. That's my opinion, right? I wouldn't. I'm shocked you took it, but I hope you win it because that would be a nice win for you.
All right, my man.
Cool. All right, so